Welcome to Running on Reddit, r/Bridezillas, where the craziest brides and wedding stories are shared on Reddit. A friend, whose fiancé was one of my husband's two best friends, asked me to be her maid of honor, and I helped her do so many things. Opened up a credit card at the bridal store so she could buy her wedding dress, was paid back in installments by her godmother, used my own money to buy small gifts, and put together her bridal shower, bought my own bridesmaid dress, etc. I also offered for my best friend, who makes lots of her own jewelry and has done so for others in the past, to make jewelry for her and the wedding party. She gave me the most vague idea of what she wanted and asked me for a price several times, but never gave me adequate feedback or complete ideas on what she wanted. I told her to put aside $100, and then if the price happened to be higher, I would pay the rest. Not even 2 weeks before the wedding, she tells me that, because I never gave her a price, she could only afford $50. My friend still made it, seeing as we had already purchased the supplies in her wedding colors and begun the process, even after having suffered a concussion shortly before, while we were on the job. She was on disability not long after, and was in chronic pain for months. The day of the wedding, the bride begrudgingly gave my friend $50, even though after the event, I heard she had told others that she hated all the jewelry that we had to make with no input from her. Even after this, my BFF helped the bride with her sadly drooping bouquet. It was fresh, but didn't remotely look it to make it actually look decent enough to walk down the aisle with. Side note, this wedding took place outside, in April in the south, near a man-made pond, with no shade excluding the large tree underneath which the ceremony took place. My friend, who had been told by her doctor not to be out in the heat too long due to her concussion, ended up spending 4 hours at this wedding because it was so rushed and poorly planned that if she hadn't been there setting up the reception area, it wouldn't have been done. The bride's mother was supposed to be making the cake, but arrived over an hour late with a disheveled, melting mess that my friend also had to fix. During the ceremony, I kept looking across the way to see her fixing said cake, setting up table decorations, arranging the flowers, and basically doing everything that should have been done before any of the guests got there. She had just gotten everything done right before the ceremony ended, and after pictures were taken, I insisted she go home to rest up as she was clearly exhausted and struggling. The bride never said thank you to any of us, never acknowledged the work my friend had done for her, for free, because she saw what was happening and knew she needed help. On top of all of this crap, when I got engaged a month later, the bride was all nice to me, asking me questions and the like. When I posted a picture the next month that just included myself and my two close friends and indicated that they were my only wedding party members, she, along with her mother and her husband, started posting rude, passive-aggressive comments on it. I was livid, not only because we had done so much for her, only for her to crap talk us behind our backs, but because she had the nerve to be upset that I didn't ask her to be in my wedding party. I was about to go off on them publicly, but my now husband stepped in and shut it down. We don't talk to them to this day, not only because of all the bullcrap listed above, but because the entire time we were friends with them, she would constantly tell her husband that she wished they could be more like us. It wore the dude down until he just cut off contact with my husband completely. Hosting an outside wedding in the sun already sounds like a bad idea, but to then require someone with a concussion to stand out there for hours is beyond selfish. Good thing OP had the wits to stop entertaining such a person. My stepsister, 26, just had her wedding, and I'm so thankful it is finally over. Here's some things I've had to endure for the past year. I make about $130 a week babysitting. She required all of us 9 bridesmaids to go on her bachelorette party to Disney World for 5 days in the blistering Florida heat during the month of May. My sister contributed $90 out of the at least $1,000 trip to me for it. I almost passed out from the heat and she gave me an attitude when I took a bus back to the hotel to cool off and rest. She also flipped her crap on me in front of all the other bridesmaids when I accidentally called my boyfriend at the dinner table. I missed 3 days of school. She crap talked on any bridesmaids that couldn't afford it. And she made me go on rides I wasn't comfortable with. I have a huge fear of heights and was pissy when I wouldn't go on Soarin'. Had to pay for my dress and hair by myself too. I didn't get to get my makeup done by the makeup artist because I didn't have enough money. At the wedding, she sat me at a table with all old people, while my brother, his girl, and my cousins sat at another table. Needless to say, I moved my chair over. She's probably passive-aggressively mad at me about something that I don't know about. This is something she would do. 150 plus guests at the wedding. What the duck, honestly. I didn't get a +1, who would have been my boyfriend of over a year, and I think it's because my sister didn't want me being distracted and didn't want us to out-cute her and her new husband. We always get complimented. Yet, a lot of the other bridesmaids' significant others were invited. Even this one bridesmaid she despises was able to bring her boyfriend who she had just started dating. Meanwhile, my stepsister has known my boyfriend for over a year and didn't invite him. Maid of honor was also a super control freak and didn't like me either. She got pissy with me because I didn't wear blue like everyone else did during the bachelorette trip. She also didn't seat me at the table with the rest of the bridal party for the rehearsal dinner. No clue as to why she did this either. Edit. There seems to be a lot of misinformation here. Let's clear things up. I have a medical condition, and one of the side effects is that my memory is awful, medication plus the condition itself. That's why I forgot to wear the blue shirt. I probably should have mentioned this. Also, I was getting off the phone with my boyfriend saying, "Hey, sorry honey, I didn't mean to call you," before she interrupted me and told me to leave. Some of you need to chill out. No, I wouldn't be all over my boyfriend at the wedding. There's tons of other couples there who are fine. I'm not some weird and overly affection attention skank. I was only upset I didn't get a +1 because I found out the boyfriend of the bridesmaid she hates was able to go. This bridesmaid has a new boyfriend every 6 months. It made me feel like she thought that that was a better option than inviting my boyfriend who she sees all the time. It changed from a 3-day bachelorette trip to a 5-day bachelorette trip. That's another reason why I was upset about the price. And finally, the temps were at least 96 to 98 every day during the trip. Not a nice 80 something. From what OP has described of her situation, she is but a young girl, yet she was required to fork over so much money for all of these lavish ordeals. Unacceptable. If you like the content and want to support the channel, like and subscribe right now, or you'll be running on fumes. My then friend Quinn had joined a sorority, and after being proposed to following college graduation, she had invited me, her biological sister Fran, and about a dozen sorority sisters to her bachelorette party. Most of us were bridesmaids, planned by Fran. The party was at a cabin upstate with wine tasting and floating down the local river in inner tubes, being the main activities. We arrived at the cabin, and the fun began. One particularly entitled bridesmaid wanted the master bedroom instead of, you know, maybe the bride getting it, but Quinn was a doormat to her sorority sisters, so she let the bridesmaid have it and took a shared room with Fran. On day 1, we were an hour late to the inner tubing due to excessive prep time required by some, and had to wait further as one of the cars full of girls just had to stop at Taco Bell. Cool. Only problem was, we had a reservation, because tubing down the river takes a certain amount of time, and we had to make it to the end of the route before dark. As in, the raft company guide would be waiting for us at the end point, and if we didn't make it there before nightfall, he would leave and call the cops to find us, because tubing on the river at night is dangerous as duck. So, they were nice enough to let us keep our reservation, and the tubing began. We ended up joining all our tubes together with rope, which created a giant tube glob traveling down the river at a slower rate than individual tubes would. For a couple hours, we happily drink and float, but the sun started to get a little bit low in the sky, and we reached a fork in the river that the guide had told us was about halfway through the route. Uh-oh. Everyone's starting to make vaguely concerned noises, so I take matters into my own hands. I put my legs through the tube and start running along the bottom of the river, thankfully shallow enough for me to touch in most places, with my tube encircling my chest, pulling the other tubes along. Fran tries to help, but can't touch the bottom. Not one of the bridesmaids offers to help. I do this for 2 hours. I ran along the bottom of a river pulling these 12 lazy buttholes for 2 hours, and in that time, they continue to lay on their tubes, occasionally spouting encouragement and eventually ignoring me as I pull them along as quickly as I can. I ask them to help, except Fran and the bride, as the sun starts to set, and am met with excuses of, I can't touch. Most were about my height, and didn't even try to move, or I am too drunk, or silence from the others. There was also refusal to break up the tube glob. By this time, sunset was fading to dusk and everyone was panicking from the comfort of their tube. I was getting tired and still pulling them along, occasionally stepping on sharp rocks or dump trash. Yay tetanus vaccine. As I ran along the river bottom, the bridesmaids started complaining they were cold. I wanted to slap them, but was too busy trying to survive this bachelorette party. As the last sliver of sun was visible on the horizon and darkness was almost enveloping us, we finally saw the lights of the guide's van. As we touched sweet land again, he told us we barely made it. Fran and Quinn thanked me. The bridesmaids complained they were hungry. When we got back, none of them knew how to turn on a grill, so I grilled hot dogs for them all, because I needed something in my stomach, after running a freaking underwater marathon with a weighted vest of buttholes, while muttering to myself that I'm doing this for the bride. Besides Quinn and her sis, no thanks were given for the food. Many of the bridesmaids failed to show up to any other pre-wedding events, or help with any of the prep. One bridesmaid that showed up to the bridesmaid dress shopping trip threw fits in the bridal shop about wanting a very bodycon style and specific color of bridesmaid's dress that the bride did not want at all. One bridesmaid wanted the bride to pay for her dress and shoe. Not expensive, and the girl wasn't strapped for cash. The wedding was much the same. Fran, Quinn, the freaking bride, the parents, and I did the vast majority of setup and cleanup. The marriage lasted about 6 months before divorce. Someone cheated. It wasn't the groom. OP was in a lose-lose situation. Either she should stand up to these lazy bridesmaids, potentially receiving backlash, or slog on in silence only to support inconsiderate bums. Hopefully, OP found a new group of friends who actually value her. Let me know in the comments, you have been in a similar situation? Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe and turn on the bell or you'll be running on fumes. See you in the next video.